Okay. Hey, Maria.
Lisa, here we are again.
Here we are again. We haven't gotten to lunch yet, but that's going to happen next. So exciting. It is hopping here at KonnectHouse.
It is.
So many people, procurement, we've got so much technology to talk about. So here, I'd love to introduce you to Josh Wilson. He's from Jabil. He's got a wonderful accent, not yours.
Not as pretty as mine,
not
but
as pretty,
that's okay.
But almost as pretty. So Josh, so great to meet you today.
Nice to meet you, Josh.
Nice to meet you both.
So tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, sure. So Josh from Jabil. The funny story I was about to tell is Jabil, it sounds pretty exotic, but the two founders, one was named James, the other was Bill. They combined their name to create Jabil.
That's nice.
That's a good way.
Yeah, for sure. And then they comment on the accent also. So Jabil's first international site was in Livingston, which is about 30 minutes from my home. So, there's a lot of Scottish people that exist in Jabil. And that have grown throughout the ranks and hold pretty senior positions in the organisation. So I lead our procurement and supply chain market intelligence division.
Great.
With that, there's an element of supply chain risk, right? As the world becomes and stays particularly volatile, the function's grown. Based in Scotland, do a bit of travelling. Our corporate office is in St. Pete, which I'm actually heading to next.
Oh, nice. You go from Chicago to Florida. That's
that's going to be a shock to your system.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, packing for it's tough, right?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, yes.
You need to bring your big jacket and also your shorts.
Also your shorts. That's right.
For sure.
Yeah. So home is Scotland.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, welcome to the United States. We're happy
to have you. It's in my bucket list. Going to Scotland.
So tell us a little bit about Jabil. So you mentioned risk, but let's dive in. What's the platform? What does it do? Who are your customers?
Yeah, so it's actually an interesting story. So Jabil at their core are a contract manufacturer, right? Probably haven't heard of them, but they're a bit of a monster. 140,000 employees, $30 billion in revenue, and the critical path of revenue for some of the largest well-known brands around the globe, right? Think, Apple, Tesla, a variety of others, Dyson, and the like as well. And we took the decision probably 3-4 years ago that we would look to what we'd done well as an organisation and then provide that to the market in the form of services. Right from data through to supply chain management, everything short of manufacturing. I mentioned I manage the market intelligence piece of the space. That's really the data, the insights, the recommendations. What's guiding Jabil as an organisation. My role is to combine all of that information and provide that to the market in the form of either reports or software solutions. And as part of that, supply chain services engagement, we met an AI native organisation named Cyford, created a joint venture, and now have the ability to build out bespoke procurement and supply chain solutions, one of which being a supply chain risk platform.
So risk is probably my favorite part of supply chain and part of procurement. So 1,000 questions, you ready?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So when you think about risk, are you thinking about kind of the top, what I would say now, 12, something like that? Those top risks, geopolitical and weather, and now I'm not going to go down the whole list, but those are the ones that we're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And we're at our core an electronic manufacturing solutions provider, and therefore a lot of our expertise in that space. But I think all of those risks that you mentioned are pretty agnostic, right?
Yeah.
Particularly at the moment when risk is so elevated, that I think it's really important that everyone's kind of wrapping their arms around, who are our suppliers, where are they located, are they in regions that are, more vulnerable than most to weather events, geopolitical challenges. I think some of the current affairs that are taking place in the US just now kind of, elevate that risk as well. So we are thinking about them from our perspective, but I think, it's pretty agnostic in terms of who they're impacting.
So I'm old enough to remember when we would perform stress testing kind of by hand.
Yes.
Right. So are you offering the world a digital way to stress test the supply chain?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's it's interesting to see. Probably relatively recently, right, when organisations were undertaking those stress tests by hand, essentially manually,
Yes.
right? And I know that because in our organisation, it wasn't too long ago when people are still wearing the bruises of engaging in that sort of practice. But AI's kind of changed that, right? And having the ability to, have real supply chain visibility, which is really important. And then, one, understanding where your suppliers are located, understanding what they supply you with, which might sound as though, that kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah.
It doesn't. So, data cleansing that information is really important. And then taking that data and being able to scenario plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of stress testing, looking at where your critical suppliers are located,
Right.
looking at those 7 to 12 risks. Is one of my critical suppliers located in an area that floods on a regular basis? I'm a single sourced in that particular component, or do I need to look, do I need to have a second source, either from that same supplier or from another supplier? All of those things, I think, proactively are important in stress testing. But then there's a reactive side, right, where you've got visibility into your supply chain and then an event takes place. You want to be positioned well enough that through that engagement you can take action quickly, right?
Yes.
Mitigate the impact. Moving early is a competitive advantage, right? Particularly when you're sourcing components in a volatile market. And AI is kind of giving us the tool to see the risk early, give us recommendations on how to absorb the challenge, but also take mitigating action pretty quickly.
Because it's really one of the greatest, it's one of the greatest challenges is how to mitigate your risk. And really, it's about speed.
Yeah.
It's about ensuring that whatever said event, that you are mitigating that moment, right? Event happened as quickly as your response is.
Yeah.
That's truly how you're mitigating risk.
Yeah, for sure. It's 100%, right? But to get to that position, you've got to understand, am I exposed? And I'll give you a good example of that, right? During China, during COVID in China, when there was lockdowns in specific regions, right? We engaged with loads of customers who thought they were okay, right? And then to find out subsequent to the imposition of lockdowns that their supplier locations were actually located in the region that was impacted, not outside of it.
Yep.
And not having access to that relevant information can be pretty costly for organisations. So I think having that correct data, applying the tools on top of it that give you the ability to act quickly, particularly with AI, is a game changer.
That is very
I have a
cool.
question. My passion is working with the small business community, and I'm very well, I'm very well educated about procurement in the United States. Now, my curiosity is, how does Jabil handles community-based resources? What programs do you have for the small business in Scotland?
Yeah, so I mentioned, we have supplier development programs globally, right, that allow organisations who, maybe wouldn't be at a scale in which Jabil would engage with, to understand the systems in which we operate, but also to build their capacity and capabilities so that they can become, an important partner of Jabil. And it's not just in Scotland, we do that globally, right? We are. We think of our strategy as being globalization, right? So we're a global organisation, but try and fit the culture and the values of the areas in which we operate. And by the way, we've got 111 sites, 32 different countries.
Great.
Oh, wow.
So we're in kind of every corner of the globe, and understanding, that culture in the areas in which we operate is really important. Engaging with our, suppliers that are locally, understand the challenges of operating in that space, but also the opportunities is pretty critical to us, pretty critical to our organisation.
Thank you.
I'm really excited to have met you, and I think one of the driving reasons for me is we started out, but we were talking about our experience, and Maria and I both our organizations, though very different. She's upstream, I'm downstream. It's in regards to how do we ensure that we're using and representing underrepresented and underprivileged, and bringing them to the table. It's really about that discovery model. And one of the things that I think has always been a driver for the small business is about that intentional redundancy of ensuring that you have, if you've sole sourced something with a large organization, you are in fact looking for that backup plan as that insurance and that risk mitigator. And I think what Jabil is offering is the ability again to drive that intentional redundancy. And really impressive.
No, for sure it's, and that's completely correct, right? Not only does it support those smaller organizations, but it's also about making our organization more resilient so that, in the face of a disruption, we're not sitting with a 20-cent chip that's raised in price by 50x, and we don't have a second source to buy without the extended lead time and price.
This was really terrific. I would love to continue this conversation with you because it was really great. So again, we have Josh Wilson here from Jabil. Please take the moments to check into their platform. I think it's pretty amazing. Risk mitigation, there's not a bigger risk in 2025 than risk, right? But I make a joke, but it is really, it's truly the thing that separates good strategic procurement. So we'll talk more about this after lunch. Maybe we'll talk about this at lunch, I think. That's what's probably going to end up happening. All right, everybody. So great to see you all. We'll be back here in a little bit, and we will definitely have more people from KonnectHouse. So thanks.